welcome back to another live stream, the J Area Wrestling live stream. And there's some things we gotta talk about. With the Thursday streams, obviously, we're back again. Got TNA Wrestling off in the background here. We're trying to experiment with a little bit of live reactions while we're doing the live streams as well. But TNA has been in the news as of late when it comes to pro wrestling. I mean, we've seen the improvements that they have made over the last couple of years. It's amazing to think that TNA wrestling for like the longest was seen as like a dying brand. They had their different ownerships, whether it was Dixie Carter, whether it was, the lead of the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, and now with Anthem, they've really improved as a product, and we've seen their partnership with the WWE being a main source of that as well. We've seen people like Jordan Grace, we've seen people like Joe Hendry, of course, make the jump to the WWE and have these cameo appearances, and really broadening this partnership between the two promotions. It's improved, I think, a lot in terms of the business, not only for TNA, but for pro wrestling in general. I feel like when there's room for collaboration, that really allows fans and people within the business to enjoy the product of pro wrestling. But with TNA, we talk about that. This last weekend, Under Siege had taken place, as well as NXT Battleground, which had seen Joe Hendry defending his title up against Trick Williams, former two-time NXT champion Trick Williams, and was really a surprise, for me at the very least. I did not expect Trick Williams to win the TNA World Champion for the first time ever. Someone from the WWE is a TNA champion. Never been done before. We know in AEW, Kenny Omega and Christian Cage have both won the Impact Championship during their tenure there. But for the first time ever, Trick Williams is a TNA World Champion. That matchup in itself, I was not expecting to be the main event. I thought for sure it would have been Jordan Grace versus Stephanie Vaquera, and we'll get to her a little bit later in the stream. But as we welcome more people here to the live stream, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Welcome to another edition of the J Area Wrestling live stream, where we talk pro wrestling and open up the conversation to all of you. We're talking about TNA. Joe Hendry loses the championship. Trick Williams is the new TNA champion, and I like this balance of like the heel persona that they have going for Trick, because for a lot of people who have been watching Trick Williams for the better part of these 2 years, it's still very much the foundation of his character. He has this air of cockiness, but it's also mixed in with a little bit of confidence. But being that he's the TNA World Champion as an NXT star, it lends himself to be a heel. And I think this is where Trick Williams really excels at, because he has that air of confidence. He has that little bit of cockiness to him. And so for him to come off as an NXT guy winning a different promotion's championship, it rides that line of what a great heel he could be. Trick Williams, though, is now in the midst of a feud with Mike Santana, former AEW star and now current TNA star. And they have a championship matchup scheduled for this upcoming NXT episode. And that should be an interesting one, because I could definitely see them just shooting that championship right back to TNA, giving Mike Santana the rub, who's been on the rise for the last year ever since he re-signed with TNA Wrestling. But again, I mean, I'm never a fan of hot potatoing the title. I like seeing these title reigns last for a little bit longer than a week or so. And will Trick Williams hold the championship? Maybe. Who will be the guy to unseat him? Will it be Joe Hendry? Will he regain that TNA World Championship? Or will we crown Mike Santana as this new face for TNA Wrestling? I think that's certainly an option that they have. However, I do not see them doing it, the first title defense that Trick has. Maybe you want to build up his heel tendency, give him a good heel run, and establish him as a threat to total nonstop action. But that's over for the TNA World Championship. I would be remiss to not talk about the women's roster situation in NXT. Stephanie Vaquer loses the the NXT Women's Championship. That's huge, because I feel like she had just won the title. She held it for maybe 77 days, I think was the number, And for her to lose to JC Jane, who's been on the NXT roster for a few years now, I thought it was quite a surprise to have JC Jane win. Um, it's been a stellar aspect of the roster for the women's division. She's been a stalwart, has been there for the tag team division. Obviously, she was a part of Toxic Attraction and now as one of the leads for Fatal Influence. But having her win that championship was just a surprise to me. And I love a good surprise because when you've seen it for so long, like you and I have when we watch pro wrestling, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to be surprised. And that JC Jane victory really caught me off guard. Stephanie loses the title, and now there's reports saying that her, along with Jordan Grace, will be making their main roster debut in the coming weeks. Will it be for Money in the Bank? Doubtful. I'm thinking maybe after Worlds Collide or after Money in the Bank and getting ready for the summer, SummerSlam rather. We'll see them make their appearances. Again, the reports are saying that Stephanie Vaquero will be a member of the Raw roster, and apparently Jordan Grace will be joining the Blue Brand SmackDown. That is two huge gets for the main roster. Jordan Grace, a multi-world champion, specifically with TNA for the Knockouts division. She was the face of that division, joining the likes of, Gail Kim, Mickey James, who for the longest were the faces of the Knockouts division in TNA. So when she made the jump to NXT, I think her along with Stephanie, we just knew it was only a matter of time for them to join the main roster. Julia's already there, who had just joined back in the fall of last year. Roxanne Perez is on the main roster after being in, NXT for a few years, and Stephanie and Jordan Grace to follow suit. The women's roster is just loaded. I mean, what an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the talent in that division. And it begs the question, who will be stepping up for NXT? Some people have had criticisms about the division, saying like, "Whoa, Jordan Grace and Stephanie, Julia, Roxanne, that should have been the four pillars." The release of Cora Jade, it's lacking some of those names from the better parts of NXT. But we have to keep in mind, we have to recognize that NXT is a developmental brand. This is intended to have people grow, to have people improve. And so when the new stars go to the main roster, this is going to open up opportunities. I would love to see Sol Ruka, Zarya, Kaylani Jordan move up the ranks and challenge for the NXT World Championship for the women's division. We can see other stars who don't really get as much time at the top. I mean, Tatum Paxley, I'm a big fan of Tatum. I love seeing her character work, and she had a championship opportunity during the TNA run that she had because of the cross promotion. But I would love to see her have another opportunity at a world title, this time on NXT. So with the opening of these slots here in the women's division is an opening for the opportunity of literally everyone. Lash Legend is another one that comes to mind who hasn't really gotten a lot of shine. She was a part of the group The Metaphor, and now that her partner in crime, Jakara Jackson, was released, unfortunately, that opens up an opportunity for Lash Legend to go after some singles gold. It's going to be very interesting. NXT's women's division has been regarded as one of the best divisions in pro wrestling. So when you move these stars to the main roster, now it's curious to see what's the next wave, what's the next evolution of that division, because NXT has had a great lineage of champions. You look at the former NXT Women's Champions since the title's inception. I mean, the original champion, Paige. You go from Paige to then the Four Horsewomen, which includes, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bailey, Becky Lynch. There was a time in there as well. Asuka held the title for like over 500 days. Ember Moon, Shayna Baszler. There's so many other names to consider. And then obviously you get to the point where you have, Roxanne Perez and Julia. And then most recently, Stephanie Vaquer. Obviously, there's a lot of people in that lineage, but it's a stellar lineage nonetheless. I see people here joining us in the chat. Welcome to the live stream. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Shout out to San Fran 5, a member of the Main Event Mafia. As you can see with the U.S. title, right by their name. For the Thrill, also in the chat, and says AEW. Dude, and it's a great segue here because AEW recently just had their latest pay per view, Double or Nothing, and it's official. Hangman Adam Page is the number one contender. Gets a championship opportunity against Jon Moxley, who is the AEW World Champion. You wouldn't know it because he has that title, held hostage. Also, real quick, I want to talk about this new feature on the live streams. In the chat, in the community, they're adding a new feature for those who are participating in the live stream. Basically, if you're going to be commenting, super chat, any type of interaction with the live stream, it keeps track of that participation, and it'll even have you as a ranking. So for example, you can see For the Thrill and San Fran 5 are at number one with their participation, so we appreciate that. Gabs in the chat, what's going on, Gabs? Long time no see. Glad to see you here in the stream. For the Thrill also says the Hangman needs to dethrone Mox or I'm all WWE. I've seen on the internet that a lot of people are saying this is giving WrestleMania 39 vibes. Hangman Adam Page trying to finish his story, regaining that AEW World Championship from Jon Moxley, and finally defeating the Death Riders. I mean, this reign has been going on since the fall of last year. I think when they first set out with this story, it was intended to be Darby Allin. There were a lot of matches, a lot of segments that put Darby Allin in that position of, hey, this is going to be the baby face to dethrone them. It's going to be the big celebration of Darby Allin finally reaching the metaphoric mountaintop after he reaches Mount Everest. But there was a point here where we thought it was Will Ospreay. And I will say that was my pick. My prediction was Darby Allin. My personal favorite would have been Will Ospreay. But then with Hangman, I mean, there's so many stories to tell with the Hangman. He was the original baby face for the company. He was supposed to be the guy. When he won the title way back when in 2021, it has to be Hangman, right? I'm with you For the Thrill 100%. I think Hangman has to be the guy. The redemption arc, seeing him evolve from, the Hangman that we all knew when AEW first started to the depressed, the drunk Hangman, and then the Dark Order, and then moving on from that paranoid and deranged version of Adam Page. We've seen a lot of different versions of Hangman. It has to be him. It has to be him. It comes full circle. And on top of that, when you consider that Jon Moxley was the original, shock debut for AEW. I know a lot of people could say it was Chris Jericho. I think Chris Jericho was the foundation that it was built on. He helped really set in motion what the plan and vision for AEW was. But with Jon Moxley, he was like the first big get, of the modern star. In parallel with him and Hangman, who is technically homegrown, I guess you can say. He was in Ring of Honor. He was a part of New Japan. So, but he was a guy of the elite. He was a member of the elite, and he needs to win the championship. I would be very disappointed, to tell you the truth, if he doesn't. Love Will Ospreay. I would have loved it to be him. I would have loved Darby as a champion. But of the three, narrative-wise, Adam Page is the man to go with. W analysis, brother. I agree completely. Appreciate that. How about the match, though? What a contest. I think it's exactly what we expected it to be, right? Hangman and Will Ospreay, two of the very best that AEW has to offer. I mean, Will Ospreay is a match of the night machine. I mean, this guy can go with anybody. I know there's a lot of people out there who criticize Will Ospreay's style of a match, and that's totally fine. Your opinions are valid, but that doesn't mean it's not great. I mean, Will Ospreay is a top 5 wrestler today. I think you can't even dispute that. The energy that this guy brings, not only in the sense of in between the ropes, but just the energy that he elicits from the crowd. This guy, he's over. In a word, he's over. I predicted Hangman to actually take the pin. I thought Ospreay was going to win the matchup, go on to face, Jon Moxley. and he was going to be the one to win the championship, but not the case. These guys got a half hour worth of a matchup too as well. They did not spare any expense when it came to these two, and I think that was the right call. There was so much hanging on this matchup because it really was the focus of who is the next guy. I think whoever would have won the match, Paige or Osprey, they were going to win the championship. And with that being said, early prediction, but I got Hangman winning, and it's great. It was longer than the Anarchy in the Arena. Amazing match. Those Anarchy in the Arena matches too are just they're fun. In a word, they're fun. And that's why I think it's so important. That's why I've been singing the praises of AEW since it has been introduced. That's why it's so important to have an alternative. I'm a big WWE fan. Been watching it since I was a kid. 27 years old. I've been watching it since I was like 2. But I do have that sense of appreciation for AEW, for TNA, because it's different. It's a different type of wrestling, and it's okay to, enjoy that. Just because you are more inclined to follow one product over the other doesn't diminish the other companies. And the Anarchy in the Arena matchup, I mean, it was star-studded. A star-studded matchup. You had on one side Jon Moxley, Claudio, um, other members of the group, of course, the Death Riders being Wheeler Yuta, Marina Shafir. They also added the likes of the Young Bucks, who are considered to be one of the best tag teams in the world, even though those guys are kind of polarizing, to say the least. But that babyface team, Swerve, Kenny, Samoa Joe, Willow Nightingale, Shibata, Hobbs. I mean, dude, like that babyface team, top to bottom, it was just loaded. Again, I got that matchup wrong. I predicted Osprey would win. Didn't happen. I predicted that the heels would win. That didn't happen. But in retrospect, I mean, how can that babyface team not win? And I will say, I love the inclusion of the licensed music that they have. Last year they had the Final Countdown. This year it's Bodies. And great. Again, in a word, fun, and I love that in my pro wrestling. I love it to be fun, outlandish, yes, entertaining, absolutely, absolutely. An overall great show, and that's just talking about for the majority of the men's division. How about Tony Storm versus Mercedes Monet? Maybe the main event of All In potentially. I think it'll probably be Hangman versus Jon Moxley. But this is two of the biggest women stars, not only in the company, but just in pro wrestling. Mercedes Monet, Tony Storm, in ring, among the best. And they've been waiting to tell this story. And I think it was the right call to hold off until All In, until the biggest show. I mean, arguably the biggest show of the year, because you can make the argument that Double or Nothing is their main show. Um, but All In, Texas, these two, I would not be surprised if they main evented. Tony Storm versus Mercedes had a great promo and got a lot of people excited about the match. Yeah, I was watching that last night, and it was the right call to have that close out the show because it builds up that anticipation, it builds up that hype. Tony Storm is a made woman in AEW. She's a 4-time champion. The crowd is behind her 100%. Mercedes Monet may have her detractors, but I do believe she's one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. Maybe in terms of her personality and the character has its misses, but in ring among the best. I look forward to this matchup. I look forward to how they continue to evolve as a storyline because they're still, several weeks away from this big matchup. It is going to be about who's the better woman. The TBS champion, who's been a champion for a year now, versus Tony Storm, the world champion, 4-time world champion. And she had a great line here in the promo that Mercedes Monet, Tony Storm considers Mercedes Monet one of the greatest one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. But Tony Storm says, unfortunately for you, I am timeless. Great line, great way to set up the matchup. Tony Storm versus Mercedes Monet. Could go either way. It really could go either way. Are they going to continue the belt collector gimmick for Mercedes Monet, or will Toni Storm be the very first woman in AEW to get a pin over Mercedes? It should be a stellar matchup. If there's anything to say about this card right now, the world title matches are looking fantastic. Moxley versus Hangman, and then Storm versus Monet. Just off of those two matches alone, super hyped. Super hyped. I know you guys are hyped. I want to hear about you guys. What are your thoughts on All In? What are your thoughts on the current status of pro wrestling, whether it's NXT, whether it's WWE, TNA, AEW? This is your opportunity to voice that in the chat below. Not announced yet, but it will be Omega versus Okada. It's been hinted ever since Omega came back, and to see that matchup, I'll speak as a pro wrestling fan from the North American side, because when Omega and Okada had their matches in Japan, I wasn't able to watch that. I didn't have access to New Japan. I wasn't watching it. I was watching the highlights. So there are 4-minute highlight reels that I've seen like on YouTube, but I've actually haven't seen um, any other matches like the full length. And maybe one day I will get to them, but to see this live and pay per view with respect, because it won't be live in person, will definitely be a bucket list. Will it be able to match the success of their previous matchups? Well, that's for us to decide on a different live stream. But Okada versus Omega, as the third of this triple header, they're really peaking at a great time here. And I think that's important to recognize. AEW, I feel like, has hit a curve. They are now on the upswing. They had a little bit of a tough route there in the last year, but I feel like now they are riding the ship. They are riding this wave of momentum, heading into probably the biggest show of the year for them. And between that and between, the WWE, who's at the peak of its powers right now under this current regime, and then TNA, with the momentum they've been able to amass, I've been saying it time and time again throughout this year, but wrestling, man, it's on fire. It's on fire. It's a great time to be a fan. It's a great time to be watching. Grizzy in the chat, what's going on, buddy? Says, yo, Jay, how's it going? What's on the table for today? It's really just a time to catch up. We're talking about NXT. Battleground had occurred. We're getting some call-ups to the main roster. Stephanie and Jordan Grace are appearing to be the latest members of the main roster. Trick Williams wins the TNA World Championship. And then obviously AEW had Double or Nothing. And we're gearing up for the big show, All In. Dude, this could be the most amazing card ever. It very well could be. I mean, if there's one thing I can say about AEW, everyone has their their complaints. But if there's one thing we can say about them, they do have great pay-per-views. Their matches for the pay-per-views deliver. Very seldom, very rare, does AEW not present a quality pay-per-view. And again, it's in contrast to the WWE because they have their 5-match card premium live events, which is fine because you're giving, a lot of attention to these specific matches. I personally like 7. I think 7 is the sweet spot for a pay-per-view / premium live event. 5 can be a little small for me. I think 7's the right one. And then there's AEW, who has like 10 matches, quality matches on their pay-per-views. So I've always said, hey, it's a matter of a buffet. Do you want story? WWE. You want matches? Probably AEW. Happy for Stephanie and Jordan. They are awesome. Really are, man. Jordan Grace for me was like one of the main reasons I would keep up with TNA. If it wasn't for her, I probably would not keep up with their division, their women's division. And then as for Stephanie, who I'll confess to you guys, I'm not going to pretend like I'm, ever all knowing. For me, my first matchup watching Stephanie was that Forbidden Door match against Mercedes Monet. And since then, been a fan. Been a fan. I've gone back and watched some of her old stuff when she was in Mexico, some of the Japan stuff. I genuinely believe she's one of the best women's division, one of the best women's wrestlers of all time. I genuinely believe that. The charisma, the move set, just so smooth. And I'm so happy to see her succeed in the WWE because that was her dream. So for her and Jordan Grace to be placed in this position where they can excel with, the top of the top, how can you not be happy? AEW is the king of pay-per-views. I think I said this in the chat before. It's true though, man. It is. You know, I think the WWE, in terms of their outreach, in terms of their mainstream appeal, you can't match their work. But in terms of the quality, you really sit down and watch some of the AEW matches, night and day. Night and day. Very happy for Steph. At first, I was like, no, she went from a double title holder to losing. Then I was like, oh, wait, she's going to be. Yeah. And that's another thing, too. I think it's easy to really fall into the trap of like, oh my God, what are they doing? But if you really take a second and just give them a second, let them cook and see where they're going with it. You know, I didn't think they were going to go with the double champion, route, because it really pigeonholed her in this position of having both titles. She obviously gave up the North American title, wanted to focus on the main title, and then upon losing that, you're thinking, wow, what are they going to do next? Well, the natural progression would be to move up to the big show. And like I said at the top of this stream, people with the talent of a Julia, of a Roxanne, of a Jordan, Stephanie, they can't be held down in NXT for too long. Those ladies are going to excel on the main roster. They're going to kill it. We already know Julia and Roxanne are in the Money in the Bank match for the women. They should do great. If you ask me, I think Roxanne should get that Money in the Bank briefcase. But that's just other people who have been announced. My original prediction, I said Naomi. But we'll see if she can win her qualifying matchup this episode of SmackDown. As you can see, there's a new feature on the live streams now where in the community it shows the participation of the members in the chat. Right now, For the Thrill and San Fran are tied for number 1. Grizzy at number 2 as some of the top participators here on the live stream. For the Thrill says, my first match of Stephanie's was Forbidden Door. Also, I was like, who is this? She's tough as hell. Again, and it's like, that's what I love about pro wrestling, is there's just different avenues, whether it's AAA, CMLL, New Japan. It's not just relegated to North America. There's so many other places that there's talent trying to break through. So having her moment at Forbidden Door really put in motion the wave of momentum that Stephanie's on right now. Had a great match against Mercedes, and since then has not looked back. It was her first time in front of a big audience, was Forbidden Door, and she made the most of it. And that's why I look forward to these pay-per-views, especially with AEWs, because you never know who's going to be that breakaway star. Because every now and then, there's these moments, there's these matches that solidify an individual and put them in that upper echelon. For Stephanie, it was Forbidden Door. For Toni Storm, it was when she became Timeless Toni Storm and won the AEW Women's Champion the second time. So, ever evolving. The news in pro wrestling, it never stops. And that's why I enjoy doing these live streams, being able to catch up with you guys and give you guys the opportunity to voice those concerns, voice those opinions in the live stream. If anything, I've said it from the top of the video, from the top of the channel. It's a pro wrestling channel by a pro wrestling fan for other pro wrestling fans. It gives you guys an opportunity to really just voice your guys' preferences. I've talked about it on previous live streams as well, thinking about doing live reactions alongside some of these episodes, whether it's like SmackDown, Dynamite, the episodes of Raw on Netflix, maybe TNA. I would like to hear from you guys and your feedback. Is that something you would like? Would you be interested in as a side-by-side? I'd be doing my lives here, on YouTube while also watching the product, depending on what show it was. If that's something you guys are interested in, please voice that below in the chat or in the comment section of any video. It's something I definitely have been interested in, but it's just a matter of scheduling and a matter of interest, really. If you guys aren't into it, I won't do it. But if you guys are into it, Grizzy says, "How is the AEW scene? I don't watch, not for any specific reason, just haven't yet. I've heard Mox is there and doing great. I mean, it's the alternative. You know, it's different than the WWE, where I feel like WWE is very much, they try to go polished. They try to go into this like it's the mainstream, it's the professional, it's like what the NFL does from a mainstream perspective. It tries to, outreach, get the casual fan into it. I think AEW is that like that's if you're talking about like a three-course meal, people want that steak. People want the main entree, but that AEW is a little bit of the dessert. Just because you finish the steak and you want a little bit more added to the plate, check out AEW because it's a different type of wrestling. It's for like that diehard wrestling. Not to say that it's exclusive to diehards. I feel like everybody should be exposed to it. You have familiar faces as well. John Moxley, Jericho, Bryan Danielson there for a minute. He's technically retired, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back again. So if you're a fan of the WWE, odds are you're going to know most of these names because they're in AEW. And I feel like they've really mastered the idea of the character, the gimmick. Because in WWE, a lot of these guys are playing themselves, just dialed up, which is fine. I enjoy that too. But in AEW, you're getting slight variations of characters. Hangman Adam Page has his gimmick, Darby Allin has his, the Outriders have theirs, Outrunners, excuse me. It's like a more indie feel. I've always said I feel like AEW is like an independent wrestling company, just put on TV. Further Thrill says you should check it out. It's fire. And what kind of wrestling or wrestlers do you like? Grizzy responds with, I've just gone into TNA again ever since the Hardys got back and became champs. So very new to this era of TNA. I've always been a hardcore ECW match type guy. Risky spots are definitely my thing. You would love AEW. Yeah, no, for sure. Grizzy, if you're into the hardcore spots, AEW. Those guys, the anarchy in the arena matches, the street fights. I think if you're into hardcore wrestling, that's probably going to be your best bet. I do like hearing the fact that people are getting back into TNA. For me, the golden age of TNA when I was watching was like 2007 to 2010. That was really my introduction to TNA, and then ever since I've kind of fallen out of it, because Hogan got in there, and I mean, Jesus, you guys know how I feel about Hogan. So I knew of it. I was kept up to date with like, oh, the champions are this person, or this is the main event of this match, but I wouldn't watch it religiously. Since the reemergence of the name TNA, because there was like a good decade where they rebranded to just Impact Wrestling, since the reintroduction of TNA, that's when I've been okay. I'm locked back in. So seeing guys like Joe Hendry get over, seeing Nick Nemeth jump over there and help them with some credible stars, it's really been a treat. I'm trying to get back into watching it more, but it's like, dude, there's wrestling every day of the week. Monday's Raw, Tuesday's NXT, Wednesday we have Dynamite, Thursday is Impact, Friday is SmackDown, Saturday is Collision, and then on occasion Sunday maybe a pay-per-view. It's like, dude, there's not enough time in the world right now to be watching all of this. And on top of that, we got full-time jobs out here. So it's like, man, I've always said there's 24 hours in a day. If you'd give me 30 hours in a day, maybe I could make it. But it's gotten to the point where like I like listening to podcasts. I like watching YouTube. So I have to watch and listen to these things on like 2.0 speed because man, there's not enough time in the day. Grizzy says, I'll give it a watch. Where can I watch it at? So if you have, cable or YouTube TV, it is available on TNT and TBS. If not, they also stream on HBO Max. The benefit of streaming, right? Peacock has WWE. TNA has their own app. HBO Max or Max, depending what you call it, is where you can find AEW. So, but if not, TNT and TBS are the channels, the stations that carry all Elite Wrestling. If you do have Max though, Grizzy, I would suggest going through Max because they have old pay-per-views available too. So you can kind of get a refresher, get familiar for some of the stories of the matches. There's been 6 years worth of matches there, so I would give it a look there. But it's a lot. I'll tell you right now, it's a lot. But if anybody has any suggestions for Grizzy or anybody else who wants to get into AEW or WWE, TNA, feel free to drop them in the chat. Some of your favorite matches for just wrestling in general. I love seeing this discourse though, between members of the chat. Because it's one thing for me to interact with you guys. That's great, and I appreciate it. I'm forever grateful for it. But having this become a community of fans and come together and just talk about their fandom with each other amongst the live, that to me is so fulfilling. Because it's one thing for you guys to listen to me talk, which again, I appreciate. But it's another thing for you guys to interact with each other and talk about your likes and your dislikes and share that love for pro wrestling amongst the chat. Grizzy says, yes, Max, sounds good. Is there any specific PLE I should watch to give me a good idea of what AEW is about? It's tough. That is a good one. I would say maybe the first Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing 2019 is one I would add to the list. All Out 2021 I would add to the list. What else would be a good one? Revolution 2024? No. Yeah, 2024 is another one. I feel like Dynasty 2024 was a good one too. But I will say, for like the foundation for the early years of AEW, Double or Nothing 2019 and All Out 2021. For sure. For sure. Those are two that have to be on your list. And then old episodes of Dynamite. That's going to be tough, though, to keep up with Dynamite. For that, you might just have to look up, hey, best matches in AEW history. And I'm sure someone has a list out there. The first Dynamite episode probably is a must-see because it was a historic event for the first time in like 20 years. TNT had a pro wrestling show since the closure of WCW. What up, Johnny? Welcome to the chat, buddy. Appreciate you. Starting the 2019 Double or Nothing now, it's good. And again, that first Double or Nothing was the first pay-per-view for AEW. Some people argue that All In 2018 was. That was the precursor, but the first pay-per-view, the first event in AEW history was that Double or Nothing. You're going to see matches. I believe that was Chris Jericho versus Hangman Adam Page, if I'm not mistaken. I know my favorite match on that card, though, is Cody versus Dustin Rhodes. Cody versus Dustin Rhodes is probably my favorite AEW match of all time. There's other ones, too. I mean, I love Swerve Strickland versus Will Ospreay. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland is great as well. There's so many more that come to my mind, but that Cody versus Dustin Rhodes match, that's a good one. Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. So I hope you enjoy that, Grizzy. Come back to us on another stream when you finish and let us know what you think. A Brother Rhodes match? Hell yeah. Yeah, dude. I think it's the best match of the night. And again, it's my personal favorite. Dustin versus Cody was so great. Emotional matchup. Watching that, I mean, I don't want to spoil who wins, even though maybe you know. I mean, I don't know. I watched that match, Dustin versus Cody. I watched that match with my brother and my dad, and it's like it got me emotional. It's a good match. It's a great match, and I believe if memory serves, there is a video package prior to the match, and if it's the one I'm thinking of where he talks about the Attitude Era and how he says like I love my brother, and he's basically trying to kill the Attitude Era. Chills. That's a great pay per view to start with. Yeah, and it's not even the main event. Isn't that crazy? If you're just joining us here on the live stream, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Welcome to another edition of the J Area Wrestling live stream. We're talking about TNA, AEW, WWE, NXT. It gives you guys that opportunity to control the narrative, control the conversation, and join in on the discussion. You can see here on the chat, YouTube has now added rankings in the community for those who participate with super chats, with regular comments, or any type of participation for the live streams. It gives us a ranking here. So number one, Grizzy here is ranked number one for the thrills at number two. And I really like that. I think it's cool because it gives us an opportunity to highlight the members of the J area. You guys have controlled the upward trend of the channel, allowing it to grow into what it is. So this is a great opportunity to highlight those members of the community and giving us a chance to really uplift one another. Man, I talked about it. This was always a dream of mine to have a community built upon people who have like-minded agreements or maybe different type of interests. Penta was AEW. Nice. I've only seen a few of his Lucha Underground stuff. Never knew he was so good. Oh man. Oh man. Ray Phoenix and Penta, the Lucha Brothers in AEW, their matches against the Young Bucks, the ladder match, the steel cage match, dude, you're in for a treat. Penta was nice. I mean, he still is nice, but it's like his AEW run, great. JR as a commentator, dude, I am hooked. Yeah. And there's a lot of homages, a lot of callbacks to pro wrestling history. WCW, Jim Crockett. It's like I said, if you're a fan of pro wrestling, AEW is a good show to watch because they try to honor the past and not just like in one company like the WWE, but they honor just the art itself. If you guys haven't checked out the latest video that we have up on YouTube, though, I would encourage you to do so. We've been doing a couple of late videos here for Money in the Bank. There is a video up of the rankings of Money in the Bank cash-ins. I also have a video where we talk about the what-if scenarios of Money in the Bank, whether you look at the long list of winners of the Money in the Bank contract, they have that opportunity to cash in on a champion of their choosing. So for the most part, you have the world champion and the WWE champion. But what if the winners of the contract cashed in on someone else? So I had an entire video dedicated to just that what if scenario of, for example, Edge, when he won in 2005, chose to cash in on John Cena. But what if he cashed in on Batista or Kurt Angle for that world title? So it's just really exploring the many different what ifs in regards to the Money in the Bank contract. Hope you guys enjoy that. I kind of want to do more videos like that where it's just going through a list of what ifs. Oh, there's also another video too of me trying to name every single Money in the Bank participant. There's over 200 names. Check out how I did and make sure to comment down below your thoughts on that video. San Fran 5, ranked at number 3, says Spike Dudley, clown emoji. For those who are unaware, San Fran 5 has his live stream going. He's currently playing SmackDown, Shut Your Mouth, and is in their season mode. He's been going live these last few days. If you want the link to his channel, you can find that on my homepage on YouTube at the very bottom. It'll be SanFran5, or click on his name here in the chat. You can go straight to his channel and subscribe to watch some of his gaming videos. He has SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, has also gameplay on Resident Evil. So be sure to check that out. He's more the gamer. I'm pro wrestling and movies, film, and just sports in general. But he is the gamer. If you're into the gameplay, I would suggest checking out his channel as well. But hopefully everyone's doing well here on a Thursday. It's great to see you guys come out here. We went a little bit earlier. I wanted to see, engage the timing, moving the stream every now and then just to see where everyone's at and what time works for you guys. As I've said, hey, we all got our lives, we all got our things going on, which means we got to work. The bills wait for nobody, and with my work schedule, it's kind of been all over the place. So just trying to mess with the streaming schedule and see what works. I think I like the idea of going a little bit earlier in the day, whether it's 5 or 6. And again, if you guys aren't able to join in on the lives, I always keep them up on the page, so you can join and watch in the archives, which I would suggest to do so. That way, you're just kept in the loop and you're made aware of what's going on in the channel. But yeah, 5, 6 o'clock, I kind of would like to mess with that. Traditionally, we started like going live. Man, I don't know about you guys. I don't know who in the chat here remembers. But we would go live after Raw and SmackDown. And that, for me, over here on the West Coast, was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, going live. And then from there, we had moved to like 7 or 8 o'clock. And now as early as 5 and 6 o'clock. And to see the outpouring support of the channel and seeing people, especially those who were with us for the 11 o'clock streams, I look back and I'm like, dude, what was I thinking? Having 11 o'clock here on the West Coast, and then we had people in New York who were like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning joining the stream. So big shout out to them. They are the real ones, because they were the ones supporting you when the stream had just started. Sanford and Fight here with a good question. What's going on with NXT with kicking out crowds for cussing? Yeah, so there has been, again, reports. We always talk about reports, fact or fiction. Apparently, NXT is... Good God, I thought a sneeze was going to come. I had to sneeze, but it went away. So, apparently, members of the audience in NXT, they curse. I mean, come on. Everyone does during those shows, whether it's like the holy bleep moments. Apparently, the WWE and their officials are asking fans to not curse during their shows. And if you do so, you run the risk of being removed from the arena. I get why they want people to stop, because it disrupts the live feed on TV, because you have to push the censor button and prevent, them cursing on TV. But I saw somewhere, and I did think about it too. If you're going to be charging people the amount of money that they charge people for these tickets, because the WWE's tickets have increased, if you are going to charge people that much money, the very least you can do is allow them to express themselves. They're not hurting anybody, so long as they're not, saying something rude or insensitive or just inappropriate. So long as they're not saying things like that, what's the harm in saying it? You're making people spend this much money and then controlling what they can and can't say. Come on. It isn't that deep. Come on. Really? But yeah, I have seen that. Dude, I'm reading this on Twitter. Yeah. I hope it's not true that they're going to kick people out. I think that's stupid. I really do. Come on, let people express themselves. Again, if they're being respectful and they're not saying insensitive or inappropriate things, what's the harm? What's the harm? Gab says, hey, I missed those late lives. Never missed them. Yeah, I remember them. But that's like back when I didn't work the mornings. So it's like now I work the mornings. and it's like I can't go consistently late like that. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe on the occasion. You guys already know. Check out the community post. Keep your notification bell on so you know when we go live. And if you, like I said, if you guys are interested in those live reactions to SmackDown, Raw, and Dynamite, let me know because I am considering it. Plus, it'd be cool to be able to react live to what's going on in the show and then be able to clip that and present it like on TikTok or like on the shorts and have other videos available for you guys. Big shout out here to Gabs, Sanfran5, and Grizzy, all members of the Main Event Mafia. If you guys want to join the membership for the Main Event Mafia, you do get early access to every video that is uploaded on the channel. Exclusive posts, polls, and shorts are available. And you guys get the little icon, the little emoji next to your name that is a championship title. That dictates how long you've been a member. So the longer you've been a member, the higher rank of a championship you'll have. You'll see people here like San Fran and Gabs both have the United States Championship, being that they've been members of the channel for, I don't remember if it's 4 months or not. I lose track, but I know the Cruiserweight Championship is after being a month as a member, which Grizzy has. You also get access to the special emojis that we have available on the live stream as well. So consider becoming a member and having early access and exclusive content at your disposal here on YouTube. You can also find us on TikTok and Twitter at jareapod_. That's at jareapod_. TikTok I've become more and more active on. Twitter is hit or miss. I use it a lot for like my news, keeping up to date with what's going on, not only in pro wrestling, but in like the entertainment world and the sports world. TikTok I'm becoming more active on. If it's not TikTok, it's YouTube for sure. We've also recently kind of experimented with the different locations of the live stream. You guys have seen me outside in my backyard. You've seen bits of the garage, the man cave that we have, and filming different locations. So with every live stream, we're trying to introduce little things here and there. And as of right now, as of the live stream, you guys already know, big NBA fan. The Pacers are currently facing off against the New York Knicks. Last time I checked, the Knicks were blowing out the Pacers, who are in a closeout situation. If the New York Knicks lose this game, the Pacers advance to the finals and will match up with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Last time I checked, though, the Pacers were losing big. And I don't know what the score is right now because I'm on live on my phone. So if anybody wants to do me the favor and drop the score or drop what's going on in the Eastern Conference Finals, I actually would greatly appreciate that. Tyrese Halliburton is killing it. And by the way, Tyrese Halliburton, big fan of pro wrestling as well. He'll be featured in the new 2K game. I think it was the next DLC that they'll have available. It'll be Tyrese Halliburton as a member of the roster. And then Triple H was just at the game. Shout out to my brother who was the one who pointed him out. We were watching the Pacers versus the Knicks game 4. And he says, "Is that Triple H?" I said, "Nah, no way." And I rewinded and Triple H is like front row behind like the score table and watching the game, supporting Halliburton. It is a Thursday live stream. Appreciate you guys always showing up for the streams. We've been, like I said, experimenting with the streams and the scheduling. I will let you guys know ahead of time the next time we go live. I've tried to get better at posting these updates on the posts on the community tab. That way, you guys continue to stay in the know, continue to stay informed. and not missed out any of the pro wrestling talk that we have. But I am curious about the Pacers game. You guys are going to see me on real time. Check the score. Yeah, no. It's not looking good. I mean, they're down, what is that? 16 points? 18 points. They're going to force game 6. That's a shame. Which means they got to go back to Indiana. Well, I mean, they can win on their home court. They could do that. Now, will they? I mean, hey, that's the question. But again, if you're just joining us here on the live stream, we have a new feature added to the chat. It'll rank you guys based on the participation. And again, it gives us a great way to shout out and highlight the members of the J area. So I appreciate you guys as always. In case you guys hear the audio, I'm watching TNA Impact and seeing how they're doing here on a Thursday. Grizzy says, very entertaining. These SU guys. Oh, wow. I forgot all about SCU. Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. And Christopher Daniels, of course. Wow, it feels like a lifetime ago about SCU. Love watching from a newbie perspective. Feels like that's awesome. That honestly, that like warms my heart to hear. Grizzy says, love watching from a newbie perspective. Feels like a kid again. Oh man, that just warms my heart. Because I can remember being a kid and just being exposed to the history of pro wrestling and just learning new names, new stories. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you, man. Right now they're showing some replay from Under Siege. Zaya Brookside beating Rosemary with a belt. Now the security. I only got to see the highlights of Under Siege. San Fran knows this, but when it comes to TNA, I try, like I said, I keep up with them in terms of the news, but to actually sit down and watch the show, it's been a minute. I don't know if anybody has subscribed and then canceled their subscription as much as me. Rosemary's been in TNA for a minute. Like, I can remember her, I think 2014 maybe, as far as back. I see similarities between like her and like Daphne and Victoria. Who remembers Daphne and Victoria? We'll probably be going live for maybe another 10 minutes as we start to unwind here. We talked a lot about the status of TNA. This is probably the most we talked about AEW, and I'm all for it. But it's like I've said in the past, you guys dictate the conversation. And we talked about All In, Double or Nothing, NXT, the TNA situation as well. Not a lot about WWE, which is kind of refreshing. I love WWE, don't get me wrong. But it's refreshing to be able to discuss other topics and open up new perspectives. I mean, check out Grizzy. Grizzy's over here watching Double or Nothing, the first pay per view in AEW's history, and giving us their feedback. Oh, it's so cool too to like relive it vicariously. This will be my introduction to Kenny Omega. Also been hearing the same for a while, but I've never seen him wrestle. Oh, guess I am a casual. I'm not, dude. I'm not one of those guys who says like, oh, casual versus diehard. If you're a fan, you're a fan. And the fact that you're getting into it now, dude, better late than never. Kenny Omega though, yeah, he's that guy. They call him the best bout machine. He's that guy, a generational talent. His matches, against Hangman, great. Against Bryan Danielson, great. I mean, obviously Will Ospreay, like he's Okada. One matchup that I think you should check out too. It was Revolution 2020, Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page in a tag team match. I would suggest that one as well. But again, if you guys want to check out any of the other videos that we have several Money in the Bank content related videos up already. Some of the shorts we've shown the many winners of Money in the Bank. We've been doing the series of the WWE Bingo card without using a skip. Those have been fun. And then we're going to have some live streams, obviously, in regards to the shows coming up. You guys can always keep up to date with the community tab, with the notifications bell on. That'll be your best friend. That'll be the way you guys can tell when we go live. Of course, these live streams have been a great opportunity to come together as a community, as a fandom, not only of the channel, but of pro wrestling in general, and being able to interact with one another. Gave you guys that opportunity to see what else is out there. What other type of promotions, other type of styles of wrestling there are. Obviously, we have people who haven't seen other products and are now getting into it, which I'm all for. If this is the gateway for you to see another alternative, dude, then we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well. But we're going to go ahead and start to wrap up the live stream. It's been always a great time talking with you guys about pro wrestling and, again, exploring our fandom. Hopefully, Grizzy, I hope you enjoy Double or Nothing. Come back to us with your thoughts on the show. What was your favorite matchup? Who were some stars that stand out for you? And like with everybody, come back. Let's talk about who some of your favorites here. For the Thrill says, great stream. I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you for just taking the time. Discord or Twitter. I don't have a Discord. Sanfran's trying to help me out with that. He's the more tech savvy one. We are on Twitter at jareapod_. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter at jareapod_. Sir Robert, sorry I missed this. Love this. All good, Sir Robert. Check out the archive. You can rewatch the entire stream available and be kept up to date. We'll go live again this upcoming weekend. I will have that up in the community post as well as the notifications, so make sure to do so. Bro, just spoiled the Discord surprise. Listen, buddy, by the time we get to tomorrow, people will not remember. I'll tell you that right now. I see somebody's already following us on. Wow, someone's already following us on Twitter. Right on. Yes, definitely, man. So far, I'm interested. We'll update next stream. Thanks for the recommendation, and we'll have more for you. With the coming streams, people can get an opportunity to, um, gather the recommendations for others. Thanks to for the thrill as well. Yeah, no, awesome, awesome. I'll leave you guys though. Appreciate you guys. Everyone, have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay cool. We'll see you guys for the next stream. Appreciate you guys. Everyone, have a great night. Thank you again for joining us on today's live stream.